afternoon, everybody. I am Tina Woodyard. I'll be going over Module 7 with you. So please turn to page 95. Module 7 is Managing Performance with the Logic Model. The learning objectives is we'll learn how to construct and use a ROMA logic model. We'll identify short, intermediate, and long-term outcomes on logic models and how these relate to scales. We'll understand how analysis of data in a logic model can lead to improved program management and discussion making. We'll understand how logic models can assist in the targeting process. Compare the features of the e-logic model to the traditional logic model. So everybody turn to page 96. Understanding the logic model. We're in this module, we're going to just bring everything together. So I'll probably go over a few things that you've already seen before, because this is a wrap up of everything we've gone through. Because we have building the logic model throughout the whole process, and we're just going to elaborate on everything. The logic model is a Roman is a tool that links program operations and program accountability. Program operations, it will be in columns 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5s. And program accountability is columns 6, 7, and 8 on the logic models. And this brings us into an activity. I'd like to pass it out. Pass that down. Everybody get one? Okay. In this activity, you're given an example of a logic model development. And as you can see, the columns on top, columns 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then you have explanations below that. Which if you look, like in the first one, the need. Families have limited financial literacy skills. Now that one is not an adequate statement for a need. It would have to be rewritten. Because you can't have families have for a need. Anybody think of what it should be, what it should say?
Which one you on?
The first one, but it shaded
very
out.
first one.
The very first one. They say need, but you can't hardly tell it.
Oh,
Yeah,
need.
the gray part.
The gray part.
Yeah, the very first column, 1, families have limited financial literacy skills.
It don't say that.
That's not what's saying.
It just say need.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Right.
I'm on the wrong.
It just say need on ours.
I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay. I thought we was going crazy. Oh.
I copied a bunch, but I got the wrong page in my book. Sorry about that.
That's all right,
Okay.
baby. You tried.
Okay. Now we'll start over. Families can't purchase home without assistance.
That's a need.
Yes, that's a need. Now, it can't be, families can't purchase. It has to be rewritten for, to have the specific need. Can anybody think of what that should be?
Families want to.
Well, if they can't purchase without assistance, will probably have to be something like families.
Families lack home assistance.
Yes, like home, yes, like a homing assistance or housing assistance, yes. Okay, the next column would be services or activities. 20 families enrolled in the first time home buyers program.
20 families.
Now, it's a service.
Okay.
Because of the service, we should not say 20 families, because that is an outcome indicator. So it should just be families enrolled in the first-time home buyers. Okay. The next column, outcome. Families increase their access to financial limited literacy. That has to be rewritten where it matches the outcome.
You reading that wrong, Tim. What you reading that at? Column 3.
Across.
No, it's
How
column
you
3.
do is, what outcome?
Yeah, outcome.
But ain't what you just read.
Families increase their access to financial lending institutions. Oh, we did it.
You didn't read
Sorry,
that.
sorry.
That's okay.
Must be written down. Can anybody basically say how that should be rewritten?
Families maintain home, families maintain home assistance.
Well, it's an outcome, so it would be families receive financial
Living,
Financial
family
literacy,
receive finance,
financial
education,
financial.
family receive finance. Or financialism,
It's not, it's.
you don't think it's finance?
Okay.
Say what?
There.
Their access to receive, financial assistance
Assistance.
from lending institution or whatever.
Okay, the next one is the outcome indicator.
I mean, wait a minute, what you
Yes.
said correct?
Yeah, it can be
Yeah.
one way you can word
One
it,
way or
yes.
the other.
Now the outcome indicator, this is where we would put, they say 5 out of 20 or 25%, but the 25% is the result. The outcome indicator, it would be the 5 out of 20. You know, received it.
5 out of 20.
Yeah, because we would say the services was, they were enrolled in the first-time home buyers, and the 5 out of 20 is what actually, they stayed in the program and they finished it. You know, 20 enrolled and 5 completed. Okay, and then 6, 7, and 8 go together. Those are our measurement tools. The first one is measuring. Column 7, it will be the data source. The number 8 is the frequency. So the measurement tool would be basically how many people?
But how many people purchase their home?
No, it would be
Combine all these three.
basically documentation. If you look on the board, you know, what measurement is. Yeah. It's proof. Measurement. If 5 out of 20 completed program, how are we going to measure that? We have to have proof. Yeah, the data source would be the collection of that proof. You know, papers they signed, you know, the programs they went through for completion, that sort of thing. And the frequency would be how often we collect it, whether we collect it monthly or we collect it bi-monthly. You understand?
Yes.
On page 97, building and lodging model, this page right here breaks it down on how to identify your logic model and how to build it. we'll go through another exercise later, but it'll be a little better. Everybody turn to page 98. We're going to identify and build a logic model. Now, for this one, you have a blank logic model on page 101 and 100 and 101. You can look at them. And what we are doing is this activity could be done in the future, but I want you to look at that. We're going to build a logic model by considering a program that you know. And a lot of people know basically housing, that they're pretty good on identifying all the housing elements. So what you do is you start on the left side of this logic model and identify the need. And you would write down your need. You have this opportunity to practice creating outcome language and identifying the outcome indicators that identifies that the outcome has been achieved. And that will be in column 3, and the outcome indicator in column 4. You see on top of the page where it will say identify the need, services, outcome indicator. Give a few minutes to look at that. Okay, part 2 of the activity, you will be measuring and documenting results. You'll be using the same page, but you'll be looking at columns 1 through, when you've completed columns 1 through 4, you'll move on to columns 6, 7, and 8, which would be doing the measurement tool, the data source, and the frequency for which you had already established for the need and how to get there. Give a few minutes to look at that. Okay, everybody turn to page 102. This right here is a logic model checklist. You can go through this checklist. I won't read this page, but you can read it at your leisure. This page goes through everything from services, the time frame, outcome indicators, and being realistic. Basically, you can use this page and check mark. Like, do I have this on my logic model? Do I have this on my logic model? So it makes it easier to make sure you don't miss anything. Okay,
Kind of like the Lahey checklist.
yeah, to make sure you don't miss anything,
Yeah.
yes. Mm-hmm. Okay, we'll move on to page 103. Okay, in the logic model on the next page, that will be emergency housing 1.0. That's on page 104. The agency's mission is to ensure all families have access to safe, clean shelter. In column 1, the specific need is families are at risk for being evicted. Two service and interventions are provided. 1 month emergency rent, payment, emergencies, shelter placement. The assumption behind the program that this insurers of a rent check or admittance to the shelter automatically assumes 30 days of safe shelter. Now we're going to project 20 families, of which 150 received emergency rent payment and 50 would receive emergency shelter placement. It projected that 100% of these families would achieve 30 days of stability. Marion, can you read that highlighted, please? Below that?
We on 105?
103.
Oh, I can get to 105. Me too.
It's okay, we gonna get it together. Okay, you want me to start with an analysis?
Yes, please.
Okay, of the outcome data, the results in column 5 indicates that the emergency shelter service is operating as it was expected to. It was producing the outcome indicator that was projected. However, the emergency rent payment service was not as effective. It produced a 92% outcome in the first 30 days. This is close to the projections at this point in time, 30 days post-service. Follow-up data at 60 days reveals that not all of those who achieved 30 days stability were able to maintain it. 85% remain in their homes after 60 days. 90 days, families increasingly lost their housing. 58% remain in their homes after 90 days.
And what this is a written out description of analysis of a logic model. And what the agency learned, turn to page 105, what they learned was that these were not accurate results. This community action agency used the logic model to document the emergency housing program results and to monitor performance, collecting and analyzing follow-up outcome performance data revealed the limits of the intervention and suggested that other factors may be adversely affecting families in the community. So what they did in Housing Assistance Model 2.1, they expanded the need, which reflected from analyzing of the data from the first logic model. So if you turn to page 104, no wait, yes, 106, that would be the housing model 2.0. And that's when they expanded, they changed the mission and expanded everything because they learned it was not effective. And that's what we would need to do when we first build a logic model. We have to assess it and determine whether it meets our needs, and if not, we have to revise. And in SUE, sometimes we had to revise everything, like the mission statement, the need, the services, and everything, so we can expand on what we want to accomplish. The agency identified additional funding to provide a newly added intervention of 50 of the clients from its total population of 200. It felt that these clients would come from the emergency rent services. However, this is not identified on the logic model. The agency left this vague so that the additional services could also be available to the clients from emergency shelter, as it does not know who would be interested in the additional services. Use of this logic model demonstrates a community action agency responses to data analysis and its effectiveness in handling change and obtaining results. This is community action. Okay, we're going to turn to page 108. We have another activity. I'm going to pass out pages because we don't want you to write in the book. And what we're going to do is use this page, and we're going to identify something on the logic model. We're going to put on there what we have on our page. We're going to identify where some of the benchmarks need to go. housing scale. The first one is thriving. Now, if you turn back to your logic model, 2.0, can you identify where anybody would be thriving at? Take a moment to look at it. I'll help you out. Under indicators, in the long term, purchase a home. That would be considered thriving.
Okay.
Can anybody point out another one?
High school, diploma, GED.
We're doing housing.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
This is, families obtain permanent housing.
Yes, obtain permanent housing. That would be thriving, yes. Okay, let's move down to safe. Anybody see anything on there that would be considered safe?
Section 8. That's safe.
Well, I believe Section 8 would go under stable.
Safe?
Yeah.
Oh.
She is sick today. Yesterday it was me.
What's right to own?
Stable.
What about lease? Leasing, not like, she said rent a home or lease or something.
Yeah, secured affordable subsidized rental. Yeah, and that's under one of the long terms. Family secured public housing, obtain unsubsidized rental housing, yes. We already mentioned a few things under stable. Anybody see anything else?
Unstable.
Yes. How about under outcome in the short term, families remain in their residence?
That'd be stable, wouldn't it?
That'd be safe.
But, what'd you say, Reverend John?
That'd be safe.
That'd be safe.
They could be safe or stable. I think it really depends on the agency and how you want to categorize everything. Because you don't know what's going on in the house. They could be, almost at a vulnerable point, and then they were able to remain there, so that would make them stable. Or they could have good amount of income, and they're able to stay in their home, so they'll put them up in the safe category. So I think it really would depend on the family situation there. Okay, now we're going to go below the prevention line, do vulnerable. Anybody see on the logic model where anybody would be vulnerable?
Well, let's see, they had the house, but vulnerable, they got behind and homeless.
Well, homeless is in crisis.
But they got vulnerable, but they got behind or had to relocate. I can't think of anything.
Yeah, vulnerable.
Had to relocate to another, had to relocate.
Homeless families obtain emergency shelter.
Yeah. Yep. Emergency shelter, yeah. That would be vulnerable. And then the crisis would be the homeless. Because they got
What about relocate? Where would you put relocate?
relocate.
Well, where would you, in that circle, where would you put relocate?
Okay.
People do relocate from jobs, so where would you put that home situation? Say you relocate to another city. So
Well,
what,
Well, that all really
So
depends
what
on the
would-
family, because they could be selling a house and moving into an apartment, which would bump them down from safe to like stable.
That's not what I'm saying. Suppose your job relocates you, how would that fit you with your housing situation? Would that be safe or what? No, you don't think so? No, if you get relocated, your housing,
Your job relocating.
what you, that's what you be safe.
Yeah, I was saying,
Because a lot of people, they'll relocate because they're getting better pay, better location. So, yeah, that would be, you know, I would consider that safe.
Safe.
Mhm.
It could be thriving because
Say, what's this?
I said, it could be thriving because I have a girlfriend, I got offered, she's a doctor, she got offered several jobs, and the, hospital was gonna pay for the home.
That's good, that's great.
So it could be.
It could be thriving too. Oh,
And
okay.
they flew her to several different places.
That's good.
Oh, okay. So it could be thriving or safe.
Okay, page 107, that is basically just a blank logic model. Thank you for going through that activity with me. Okay, turn to page 109. Mr. McGaddy, could you start reading the first highlighted area, please?
We have discussed the need for creating projections, targets, and reviewed established and recognized performance standards for baseball industry. The logic models can be a useful tool in the process of establishing realistic performance targets for our programs and services.
Okay, the logic model of the adult basic education program on the next page, which is 110, identifies the activities and outcomes along with numeral count that documents the steps in the program from screening and placement to achieving completion in basic math, reading, and writing skills as measured by a TABE or receipt of a GED. And if you look at the highlighted area, the first one is 100 people recruited, 95% screen, place, enrollment, 80 people attended the classes within guidelines, 60 people completed the ABE classes within 1.5 years of enrollment, 35 people achieved completion by TABE or GED test.
Competence.
If you look at this pretty well, you would see that 100 people recruited are actually in crisis, and the people at the bottom are thriving. 35 people who achieved the completion. So this is actually an upside down scale. You go from the people that you enrolled all the way down to the people you completed. Valerie, can you read the last statement, please?
Documentation.
Yes.
Documentations of the program indicates a 35% success rate, 35 of 100. Of all persons recruited into the program, 35% successfully achieved the outcome, passing the test and receiving certification diploma. All the other program statistics were active, not outcome. If the program consistently produced the same results and the agency tracked both the activities and the outcome, a performance standard of 35% could be established for this program. This performance standard would be realistic measures of excellence such as demonstration in baseball.
Thank you. Good management must have a way to document, collect, and report data related to both the services provided and the outcomes achieved. And if you turn to page 110, you will see that's what we had just talked about. The people enrolled and what they achieved. Okay? 111, introduction to the E-logic model. While the traditional logic model advances and clarifies thinking about needs, interventions, and outcomes as a paper tool, it is difficult to aggregate information across multiple logic models. Does not have the power that the electronic database does. The electronic version of the logic model links logic units, which would be several different programs, such as mission, needs, intervention, projected results, actual results, and these logic units and program accountability, which is measurement tools, data sources, and frequency of data collected and reporting, including personal assigned to function. If you turn to page 112, that is a picture of the logic, picture of the E-logic model. That is not exactly how it is going to perform. The E-logic model includes a knowledge base organized into various domains. In each domain, there are the appropriate needs, services, and outcomes. And if you look on page 113, that is a sample of an E-logic model for housing, and that's how it breaks it down. And the first one is planning. You got individuals or family in homelessness, individual or family at risk of losing their home, individuals or families limited in unsafe or unaffordable housing, and then you have the different indicators that they could have and what the impact they are on those and on that certain family. Okay. Please turn to page 115. What services produce outcomes? Stephanie, can you read, please?
Okay.
Read the first.
This is a question that is being asked of our network, and it is difficult for us to be able to respond. Part of the difficulty is that some outcomes are the results of multiple services, and some services produce multiple outcomes. What is the most effective combination of services that is needed for a customer to achieve the outcome, got a job, or maintain a job for 60 days? Consider the research-based conclusion, January 2011, Center for the Law and Social Policy.
Thank you.
Mhm.
A key aspect of the Annie E. Causey Foundation Center for Working Families model is that programs bundle and sequence services rather than offering just one component or offering multiple components by leaving it up to participants to discover and seek out additional services. The hope is that the services will have a more than additive effect in promoting economic security, enabling clients to resolve immediate crises, acquire skills and credentials, get better jobs, and build the savings needed to provide the next crisis and build for the future. You know how they always say you need to have at least a month's worth of salary saved behind in case of a crisis?
Can you do that?
Yeah. Not everybody does that, but it is advised, and that helps. Early evidence indicates that clients who receive bundled services are 3 to 4 times more likely to achieve a major economic outcome, such as staying employed, earning a vocational certification, or associate's degree by buying a car. Then clients receive only one type of service. Delivering integrated services requires well-planned program design, the hiring and training of staff with strong skills and backgrounds, and the thoughtful use of technology and data collection. Reverend Johnson, can you read that last part, please?
Bundling? This bundling of services is one of the key strengths provided to CAAs by the CSBG funding stream. The CSBG network could use the e-logic models or other similar database programs to analyze our service and outcome patterns to determine if we can show the same results as the Center for Law and Social Policy report indicated.
Yes. It is not just that multiple services are offered by the agency, but these services are delivered in a comprehensive way, connecting the resources together to help make a bigger impact. I want to thank everybody for going through my activities and being a good audience. Everybody was right on about identifying everything, which was really good. So I hope you have a better understanding of how to set up a logic model and how to identify the key elements. So with that, I'll wrap it up with my key point summary. The logic model is our most important tool for agency and program accountability. The logic model is being used by many federal, state, and local funding sources as a condition for funding. The logic model can be used to support planning, monitoring, evaluation, and other management functions of the Community Action Agency. The logic model links program operations, there will be columns 1 through 5 of the logic model, and program accountability, which is columns 6 through 8 of the logic model. Development of a logic model will take thinking and time. It is not designed to be perfect by representation of a program or services. Use the logic model checklist to self-evaluate preparation of initial logic models. The logic model can be used both to plan and monitor implementation. The logic model can also be used to evaluate performance through a comparison of column 4, planning or projecting outcomes with column 5, additional outcomes, data in the logic model will provide a means to establish realistic targets and performance measures. The logic model can serve as an executive summary of a program or service. A community action agency develops a catalog of logic models, has a useful marketing and accountability tool from their board, members of the community, elected officials, and funders. Using technology, the data generated by a logic model can be collected and analyzed easily. The logic model is an electronic or software-driven version of the logic model. Supports a database of information gathering about needs, services, outcomes, agency performances by preloading the knowledge base with contents for needs, services, and outcomes. The program manager has access to a uniform database for which to create a custom logic model. I want to thank everybody for the day, and that concludes my Module 7.